We have with us Australian High Commissioner speaking exclusively to NDTV. There is a lot that we want to pack in the next 10 minutes or so, sir. The Australia-India relationship, your foreign minister's visit, much talked about Quad, and also some lingering issues in the relationship that have sort of, been 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, particularly, with regard to Indians in Australia and all of that. We'll try and cover all of it. But, sir, let me first start with the Foreign Minister's visit to India. Penny Wong's visit came at a time when Australia-India ties are seeing a massive increase, both in terms of their scope as well as potential. What do you think would be the Minister's single biggest highlight in terms of the visit and the success?
Well, you're right that our bilateral links at a very high level, and Penny Wong and Dr. Jaishankar have an extremely good relationship. But the reality is that we live in a world which is more complex and contested. We live in a world of disruption. And it's a time in global affairs where trusted partners are even more important. And Australia, at this time of disruption, is presenting itself as a reliable and steadfast partner to the region, and not least to India. So it was great for our foreign ministers to be able to catch up yesterday. You may know, my foreign minister has been in that position for about 4 years. Of all of the foreign ministers in the world, it's Dr. Jaishankar that she has met the most frequently, 26 times over the last 3 or 4 years. Last evening, very long session, 2.5 hours, including over dinner. Some of it was a bit jolly, but it's a very good relationship, and we are building to the next phase of what is already a fast-growing bilateral partnership.
Trade is a large component of that relationship right now. There's been a lot of progress, but still thorny issues do remain, right? In terms of locking in what they feel in terms of a forward-looking trade pact. In your assessment, how far are the two sides from being able to really ensure that they harness the true potential?
Oh, come on, let's look at where we are at. So, we already have a first phase free trade agreement, and that is really going very well. 86% utilisation rate of that FTA. But think about it this way. Over the last 5 years, India's exports to the world have grown by about 40%. So that sounds okay, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. India's exports to Australia have grown by 200%. So India is benefiting at a 5-fold level in its relation to trade compared to the rest of the world. So we're in a very good space. You are right, we have further ambitions, and we are in a negotiation for a further tranche of our free trade ambitions. When you've done the easy stuff, the harder stuff takes a bit more time. We're interested in the right deal, so we want to make sure that we land something that makes a real commercial difference for both of our parties. We're intensively in negotiations on that. Our trade ministers met just 2 weeks ago when Mr. Gaurie was in Melbourne. So we're on a good track, but we are already seeing huge advantage from our first phase trade agreement.
That also shows the upside that exists right now for the trade relationship. Locking in the final phase, as you said, there are some thorny issues. In your assessments, you've been speaking to all Australian policymakers. What are they saying in terms of how do they assess the situation? How soon? Because I remember we started this conversation by talking about disruptions. One of the biggest disruption right now is the trade disruption that has happened, which is also bringing countries on the table to thrash out negotiations faster than what they would have done earlier. In your assessment, how soon can we see that phase being locked up?
Just on that disruption, we've been very clear. Australia prefers not tariffs. We're a low tariff country, and we're encouraging all countries in the world to bring their tariffs down. So, look, it's tempting to answer your question, but I'm going to dodge it, because here's the thing. We're interested in a good deal. So it's less a question of when we land this deal and more a question of making sure that we make real benefit for Indian producers, Indian investors, Indian traders and their Australian equivalents.
Okay, fair enough. So we hope to close that soon is what the takeaway can be. The other thing I want to talk about before I come to the geopolitics of the relationship is energy security. That's now a very important aspect of how nations are now looking at their national security. Energy security is a separate basket altogether. Also at a time when Russian oil sanctions have been there, it has impacted countries, it has impacted India as well. How do you see the India-Australia realignment, particularly with regard to refining capabilities and opportunities that lie ahead in the wake of the latest sanctions that came in from Russia, from America for Russian oil?
I'm pleased you raised that question. Australians feel very deeply about the war in Ukraine. That is an illegal and immoral war waged by the government in Moscow. And so we have sanctioned all Russian oil supplies from Russia to Australia, as well as a wide range of other goods. We were pleased this week, because you asked specifically about Indian oil supplies to Australia. India is an important supplier of refined petroleum and other petroleum products to Australia. And the dominant supplier has been Reliance Limited. They are making clear that from next month, from their Jamnagar SEZ facility, which is the one that services Australia, from at some point in next month, that will be that supply chain of product will be free of Russian oil, and we're very pleased about that. It's an important step forward.
Okay. Let me now come to the larger geopolitical alignment that exists right now between India and Australia, and something that the ministers also mentioned in their conversation yesterday about how there is great convergence in terms of how they see the region, the Indo-Pacific, and their common shared goals with regard to defense as well as the geopolitical aspirations. How soon do you see the Quad Summit taking place, and also B, in terms of the defense partnership between India and Australia from here on?
Well, I'm pleased you asked me about the Quad, because it's a very important minilateral body. You know, in this more contested and disrupted world, Australia wants to be a reliable partner as we seek to make sure that our region, the Indo-Pacific, remains stable and peaceful and prosperous. And the Quad is one of the key vectors bringing together the four big democracies of our region. The Quad is one of the key vectors that can do that. Now, already this year, we've had 2 meetings of the Quad at foreign ministers level, and Dr. Jaishankar and Penny Wong reflected very positively on those meetings when they met yesterday. We're looking forward to having a Quad summit, and I'm looking forward to the fact that that's scheduled for India. You know, it's a matter for Prime Minister Modi to choose when he seeks to host that meeting. I know that Prime Minister Albanese will be keen to come when a date gets settled.
In the last couple of years, the Quad summit itself has really covered a lot of ground, whether it is supply chains, whether it started with vaccines, disaster recovery. How do you see now Quad's role over the next couple of years, and how do you see that shaping the entire region?
Well, I think we've been refining what the Quad can do that's of great consequence. I mean, the broad shape of it remains the same, that we want a region which is stable, prosperous and secure at a time of global disruption. So these 4 partners who have strong values together, but also believe in freedom and the ability for smaller countries to be able to make their own sovereign choices and not be forced or coerced, that fundamental alignment remains. I think we've been refining the agenda over recent times. We want to make sure that we are doing things that make a real difference. I'll leave it to foreign ministers and leaders to announce exactly the directions we're going. But I think the discussions which are going on about the sorts of things we might do next are very productive. Okay, which brings me to ask the last 2 questions, sir, which is around Indians form a very large cohort in Australia, but over the last couple of months, there have been stray instances with regard to racist attacks. There have also been instances where the community has been picked on. Do you think maybe more could be done to ensure that the community, which contributes so much to the Australian economy, to the society,
can be given that comfort, that extra protection maybe, because when racist attacks come in, they actually target a community and leave a very large scar.
Well, let me first say that Australia is one of the safest places in the world. We have a vibrant multicultural society, and Indians can feel safe and secure in our country. You are right that in recent times there have been demonstrations, relatively small demonstrations, by people who have an anti-immigration sentiment. And some of that relates to Indians. I want to be very clear about this. You know, our government has decried some of the things said in these demonstrations, and we have been very clear that we stand for a multicultural Australia. We stand for a country where everybody who comes legally to our society is dealt with respect and generosity. And we particularly stand with those migrants who come to Australia because they make such a huge contribution to our life. Yeah. Final thing I want to say is this. Australia is a bit different from other Western countries because of all of our population, more than half either came from another country themselves or one or both parents came from another country. So there is a very lively migrant element to Australian society. And for us, making sure that people who come from other countries to make Australia home make that choice, either to make Australia home or to be students, for us it's very important that we keep our multicultural society very vibrant because it's one of the great drivers of modern Australia.
Final question, sir, which is around security concerns that several people in the Indian security establishment have had with regard to Khalistani elements in Australia. It has been raised at several levels. There has also been reassurances that have come in from Australia. What more can be done to ensure that these security concerns that India has had and continue to do so are addressed?
Oh, look, we're very vigilant on that matter. And I can assure you that the Australian Federal Police and the other security authorities in Australia are very closely focusing on making sure that everyone in Australia can feel safe and secure. There's also no question about Australia's view about India's territorial sovereignty, which we think is completely unquestionable. But I do want to say this. Australia is a free country and people are entitled to undertake peaceful protest. And so long as protests are peaceful, it's an entitlement of Australians to undertake that. But that comes alongside a rigid requirement against violence, and in particular for us to be vigilant to make sure that incidents which have occurred in other countries have not occurred in ours, of diplomatic and consular premises being infracted, that doesn't happen in Australia.
It can be freedom of speech, but not at the cost of impacting India's territorial sovereignty, and also no violence whatsoever, as you said.
That's right, ma'am.
Will be permitted.
That's
all right. I'm going to leave it there, sir. Thank you so much for speaking to NDTV, sir.
Thank you.